that's Savannah Agricultural Productivity and Investment Program. So they also had a women component, and they had equally a challenge of, and they do commercial farming. So they are looking for women who have up to 100 acres to be able to be on board. So that already cut off the women. So they could not just get even up to 1% of the targets to be women. So we went in to tell them that no, but we can use groups to assess that amount of land. We were able to secure 200 acres of land for 5 groups in one community. So the chief signed 20 years lease for the land. It was purely a virgin land. And so what happened was that the project moved in to do the development of the land for the women. Currently, as at last year, there was somebody who farmed closer to where the women's land was. So the chief, because of what happened, because the moment they farmed and they harvested, there was off-taker. So they got a lot of money. They even bought 2 motorkeys as part of the transportation process. So the chiefs even collected some other person, a neighbor's land, like 10 acres, and added it to the women again. You get it. Fortunately, the chief has not died. But we are hoping that because of the way so that we are sure of our land. Because of the way the signing was done, we had more people witnessing that. So they could stand in to say that, no, this is for the women and we want it to be as such. And what is good is that a lot of more people got involved, like the community. Almost every household has like a wife who is a member. So it's more like the security from the community is also larger. It is bigger, sorry. Okay. So that community protection is there, also there.
So you are suggesting that once it's done within the group, in a group, yeah, it's more secure.
It's secured, yes. Yes.
Does that mean that, are we advocating that the best way to go is for them to begin to look at these groups? Because if, for instance, Imani is having this MOU that we also, I doubt that anybody can take this away from Imani. If your group, for instance, or some recognized institution is having a hold of acres of land, it will be difficult for the community to struggle with it. But when individuals get the opportunity and get these lands from the chiefs, that will be easier for somebody to take it away from them. Are you then suggesting that the group system is what we should be looking at more?
Yeah, what we've gotten so far is with the group systems. Yes, in the groups. I'm not experiencing individual, because we actually don't even work with individuals.
Okay.
So we've not gone into a situation of learning how the individual situation will be like.
Okay.
We've been working more with groups and helping groups on their own initiate the process of engaging chiefs, making a justification why they need that tract of land to be able to farm.
Okay.
Yes.
So are we also encouraging more individual women to join the groups?
So they join. Join. It's because the more join, that's why the chief had to increase the land.
Okay.
Yes. Because when they farmed, we had they farmed soya beans and they farmed maize. So soya bean, soya bean is hot cake. People like it a lot. They buy it for poultry feed. Yeah. So that's the agri project is a value chain concept. So definitely you had the marketers, buyers within the chain. So immediately the women farmed, they bought it.
Okay.
Yes.
Some
so they had some hard money.
Okay.
Yes.
This piece has just gone to add up to a number of the evidences that is available with regards to the advocacy women's rights organizations have been doing in respect to the challenges women have in terms of accessing land. But I think the nail has been hit right in the head. I want to come from the angle that we need to appreciate the fact that even sometimes access to land is difficult for some men also. Because of the kind of systems we practice up north, we have some difficulty around that, and it is more pronounced for the women.
Okay.
For instance, we are from a background where the man is the landlord of the house. He has a responsibility to take care of the woman. And so the question has always been, what do the women need the land to farm for? And so we need to come from the angle of advocating for the men to appreciate the fact that we need to economically empower these women so that they can also support in the household responsibilities. From that perspective, we will see that some changes may begin to happen. Our experiences as an organization have also been working with these women in groups. But of course, we've moved beyond that to start engaging groups of men and groups of traditional authorities to see how they can make land available to these women, not because we are looking for some form of equality among men and women, but just to improve the economic status of the various households. And so, if we are doing this advocacy and we don't consciously engage the men, it's going to be a very difficult process. And so, we have, in our advocacy, have been engaging more of the men to appreciate the reasons why we want to have these women have access to the land. And so, just like a lawyer said, we've had a lot of avenues which we need to talk about and educate people about the status of the law and other interventions that can create these spaces. But we often do not take advantage of these spaces to start to talk about. Quite recently, we have engaged the Land Commission to start to engage women smallholder farmers on the new land bill he just mentioned, which was passed in December 2020, for people to appreciate even the content of the bill or the act. I don't know which one is the right word, but yes, for people to appreciate these laws and begin to act in accordance to that. So for me, I would say that this is a very good starting point. We've all gotten some level of education here, and we will continue to support in the advocacy. And it's a responsibility for all of us to join the advocacy, to appreciate that when women have access to this land, it improves their economic status, and generally the household nutrition will improve, because it's the women that are responsible for making sure that the food is prepared in the house and other things. Generally, this is what happens up north. The woman is more of the internal activities, takes care of more of the internal activities.
Very few women will really have access to a device that they can use. But they do have radio, and we can still use radio. So while I will encourage, and I'm saying this here so that maybe I will take it back to the startups, so they have a business opportunity here to work with more women in the north of Ghana. I think that we can still use more traditional media to get the messaging out. And everybody listens to radio in the north of Ghana. Hajia, am I right?
You're right.
I am totally right.
But women don't have radio.
The women don't have radio, but
but they hear radio.
Yes, they hear radio. So, yes, she's telling the truth. They don't own the radio, but the radio is on. And we used to have a project, and the project is still running in the north of Ghana, called the Talking Book, where we will give a household a device which has a recording on certain issues, whether it's health issues, farming issues, and whatever. And the whole house will listen to it. So once you know the reality of the situation, you have to tailor your communication method to that reality. In the meantime, I'm going to ask our resource person, why is it that you think no action has been taken for so long? Is it that they are obstinate? Is it that they are ignorant? Is it that they don't see their interest? Please explain it to us. Do they see it as not an issue for the nation? I want to really understand what has kept us back. And then I want to encourage all of us. It's so easy to create a movie these days. Huh? Hadia, you could be all over the internet.
Can you imagine?
Yes, and speak in your own language. And they download you on YouTube. Huh? One person downloads and then everybody shares.
Yes.
What are we waiting for? Let's use these new tools of communication to get the messaging out, to get the mobilization around the necessity for the law. And I was very happy with the colleague from, what was it called? Parliamentary Network Africa. We have laws pending. And it's very expensive to get a law through Parliament. Let's face it. That's the reality of it. People have to mobilize cash behind if you want something to happen.
Okay.
So let me just say that really we need far more education. It has to be included in our textbooks. We need a comparison. And this is, I'm throwing a challenge to Imani. Let us look at the poverty, the map of poverty in Ghana. You know that we have two poles, one in the north, central region. These are our very poor areas. How does poverty map to land ownership and size of parcel? How does it map to the ownership of land by women? Let us to look at that. And then maybe we will have more data that we can use to do the advocacy. But right now, most women don't know. So we need to have more programs on all the many TV stations, more programs on all the radio stations, and in all our languages. And people like you should be on YouTube talking about it, instead of some of the things I see, where they can spend 1 hour talking about, did this musician say this, or did this one say this? Is it a real beef? You know.
As Madame said, would it make any difference if they own? And wouldn't also the fact that if their husbands are owning it and they are working on it, isn't it the same?
You see, the land in the north.
Can you explain to them whether the husband has
No. Normally our lands are family lands. Is that not the case? Normally our lands are family lands. So you came and met your father's land. You are farming on your father who farmed on the father's land. So that's how it is. It's a generational property. But that generational property has always been managed by the men anyway.
Great.
That is how it is.
Okay.
So if your husband is farming, like my colleague said, you are also farming, but you are farming vegetables. And yours is to feed a house, not to sell in the market.
Yeah.
But we are looking at a woman having land that he can have both access and control over what he invests the land on.
Yeah.
So that he can get cash crop. He can get cash.
You choose what to plant on it,
that is
and how
the control comes in. Because the argument for even the man side is that woman cannot say you don't have access to land. And it is true. The woman can access the land. But we are looking beyond access and also control over that land.
Yeah.
To determine what crops you want to put on the land.
Exactly.
When you also even want to farm on that land. And the type of investment also you want to put on that land. That is where we are coming to. But there's another group that we have always left out, the migrant women. That makes the gender dynamics more complex. We also have migrant women. You also have single mothers. Or is it single mothers? You know, there are women that they have not married. You know, when you are married, at least within the setting, you can have some access to land to farm. But you have not married, but you have a child, you're already seen as a problem. No, you're already seen as a problem. You have already disgraced a house. So why will you come and be looking for this thing? So it's also another group. Then you have women that have migrated, like migrant women. Like if you take the Domongo, the West Gonja area like this. A lot of the women have migrated with, let's say, their husbands to go in and then just it's a survival matter. So those group of women are also there. Their tenure arrangement is quite even different. Sometimes it's just a whole mess. So it's a very complex discussion.
How is that? Those who have migrated, how are they able to have, just briefly on that one?
Yeah, this one is on the spot, but I will answer it. Yes, I'm very. Yeah, so for like if you go to the Damango area, where like the man has come to do, let's say, charcoal production. So the man has come in to get land for charcoal production. But this woman must also, the woman is not going to do that charcoal production because he does not probably have that energy for it. But he wants land to do
something else.
Something else to also earn income, as long as it's also left her house and then she's there. Now, the terms of engagement for that woman is more complex because the arrangement is, it just makes the woman like laboring for
the man.
The system that he has found herself.
So it's possible that if we also look rather at the interest, we can have not necessarily the ownership of the land itself. Then, and it is cheaper to rather focus on the interest than to acquire the land, or to use the loose term, purchase it from the original owner. So Madam was asking about title. So we have what they call the allodia title, that is the original owner's title. And then the original owner may give a freehold, too much of complex terms, but that is potentially forever. And then we have a lease, usually in Ghana it's 99 years or 50 years and so on. Then the Busan, which they call other interests. If we focus on that, I think it will be relatively cheaper for us to acquire these lands, get the owners to understand that we are interested in planting cash crops on the land, but we are not interested in acquiring it per se. So your interest is coterminous with the lifespan of the crop. So if it's cocoa, palm is around 25 to 30 years. Yes. Then when it is done, you move on. Unless they want to renew it, then you replant if the land is so fertile. If it's cocoa, you can get about 30 years. So when you distinguish the ownership per se from the interest, it will become easier for these relatively poorer farmers to still have interest in land without having to own it. After all, if there is a problem or there's an issue of compulsory acquisition, your interest on the land will not be ignored. You will still have some compensation paid to you. So then the second one is about, when Madame asks about delays in passing critical laws. I've given Imani an assignment that perhaps now we have Freedom of Information Act. Approach Parliament because we appreciate the work they are doing.
Did not rather go for a lease between the chief and the women rather than the MOU, because I would think that at least would have been more secured and at least would be registered, could be registered.
Okay.
Then, secondly, with regards to the issue of women wanting to engage more, let's say, in vegetable farming, I think there are also cases where I think that the issue is more financial than they wanting to engage in just what do you call it? Just annual crops, because I think that with the cash crops, even my research shows that most of the chiefs, when you want to go in for long leases, most of them want even to take their rent up front.
Yeah.
But with the annual crops, the women and others could pay annually, which is easier for them. But with the cash crops, since the duration is very long, they would like to get their rents even up front, maybe 25 years. They collect all at once. So that could even pose an hindrance.
Okay.
Looking at the arable land for Ghana is only 11.05%. That is a source from World Bank. So we know that it is fixed. So now we want to increase access to land for our women. Yes, it is a laudable idea. But we shouldn't forget that the land is not increasing. So the question is, over the years, from other sources, what has been the norm? We could see that group having a group of FBOs has been the best alternative to increase access to land for women. I can cite so many sources. So the question comes back to me that what is the policy framework for the lands in the country where it is since we know the percentage of arable land in the country, which therefore we know the exact spot in every community or in locations where they are arable, because yes, we can increase access to land for women, but they are not arable, they are not productive. So as we are looking at increased access, are we also looking at the arability of the land, or we just want to increase access? Don't forget that the main focus of increasing access is for agricultural production. It is not for any other thing. So if we are looking at increased access, are we also looking at the arability of the land, or we just want to increase access to everybody?
Okay.
Thank you.
Even when you acquire land, there is a limited time for you to register. And if you don't, it's even a criminal offense attached to it, or some punitive measures are applicable. But the law is also clear that customary law grant, which is what are usually given to them, need not be registered. In fact, it need not be in writing. The law is very clear in the Land Act. But there are prescribed forms that the district land, maybe the district assemblies where the land commission is represented, should have those forms. Yeah. So you can pick those forms. You indicate the name of the person granting the land, the name of the lessee or whoever is acquiring it, the description of the land. And that form, even though need not be registered, you have to deposit a copy at Lands Commission for recognition. So when you are going round, you can find out from Lands Commission. I think there are forms that can be acquired, at least in the regional capitals. They can tell us. Okay. But not to have that information maybe deposited at Lands Commission, and you want to depend on the MOU alone, it may not be enough. So the first point is, these are customary law grants which need not first be in writing for it to be registered in any case. But the law goes on for the purposes of recognition for yourself, the state, and other persons who may want to acquire the land. Because even when you acquire land, there is a limited time for you to register. And if you don't, it's even a criminal offense attached to it, or some punitive measures are applicable. But the law is also clear that customary law grant, which is what are usually given to them, need not be registered. In fact, it need not be in writing. The law is very clear in the Land Act. But there are prescribed forms that the district land, maybe the district assemblies where the land commission is represented, should have those forms. Yeah. So you can pick those forms. You indicate the name of the person granting the land, the name of the lessee or whoever is acquiring it, the description of the land. And that form, even though need not be registered, you have to deposit a copy at Lands Commission for recognition. So when you are going round, you can find out from Lands Commission. I think there are forms that can be acquired, at least in the regional capitals. They can tell us. Okay. But not to have that information maybe deposited at Lands Commission, and you want to depend on the MOU alone, it may not be enough. So the first point is, these are customary law grants which need not first be in writing for it to be registered in any case. But the law goes on for the purposes of recognition for yourself, the state, and other persons who may want to acquire the land.
You know, Imani has been interested in the big ticket conversations, the issues around macroeconomics, the governance of our country, all the issues around corruption and what have you. But we've also decided that it's important that the message is also taken from the grounds up. I mean, from the rural areas, from the hinterland, and the issues that are prevailing there must be amplified. Which is one of the reasons why we decided to focus on women and access to land, especially in the northern part of Ghana. We understand and we do now know that there are various limitations in the way of acquiring lands or controlling lands when it comes to women. And so we thought we should highlight this matter and then find innovative ways of supporting women to not only have increased access to land, but also be able to invest in those lands and make a good living or sustainable living. So we embarked on this project, worked with some local chiefs who incidentally and thankfully were willing to gift land, not necessarily gift land, more or less lease these lands to women groups that are interested in farming them and making a living of it. So that's essentially the reason behind this particular project.
Oh.
Well, the partnership has always been there. I mean, right from the local level, we partnered the local chiefs, groups that have already been working on this subject, like SWIDA, the local administrative bodies like the agric officers that you saw in the documentary, and of course our partners international. We have a group called Atlas Network, which is very interested in these matters about doing development differently. And to that extent, we are using this opportunity to also call on a lot more partners to come on board. We'll be reaching out to related entities that fund programs like this so that we can expand access to not just land for women, but increase opportunities thereof as well.